Gina Carano wasn't canceled. She was fired from her job for violating her contract, but that's not really what this video is about. I recently watched Carano's intake interview with The Daily Wire, and I was honestly struck by how humanizing it was. After watching this video, I don't believe that Carano is an intentionally bad person, but rather I believe she's just confused. And I know the optics of that aren't great. Suggesting that a woman's own political views aren't legitimate, she's just confused. I get how condescending that sounds. But my choice of words here is deliberate. Throughout the interview, confusion is exactly the way Carano describes much of her own political awakening. Gina Carano, MMA fighter turned action star, is perhaps best known for her short-lived role as Cara Dune in Disney Plus's flagship series, The Mandalorian. Well, really, she's best known for being fired from The Mandalorian. She's the latest conservative celebrity to be canceled. But while most canceled celebrities either retire in obscurity or totally double down, Carano has actually been doing some public self-reflection. Shortly after being fired from Disney, she was offered a movie with Daily Wire. The Daily Wire is a conservative news organization that has recently ventured into digital streaming. Their first release, Run, Hide, Fight, was seen by critics, and notably, the Daily Wire was founded by Ben Shapiro. And yeah, I don't want this video to be about Ben Shapiro either. But it doesn't actually need to be, because he really contributed very little to the interview. Which is great for us, because it means we're getting a relatively unfiltered version of Gina Carano's side of the story. In the interest of brevity, I will be substantially cutting down the interview. At the same time, I believe there's great value in hearing Carano's own words, so I've done my best to be as charitable to her as possible.
It had to have been on the pronoun usage, I think, was the first problem. I ended up putting beep bop boop in my Twitter bio, and 100%. Um, it was 100% to go to the Twitter mob that was telling you what to do, and it had zero to do with trying to go after the transgendered community, because I would never do that. And so as soon as I saw people started taking that wrong, I put right after that. I was like, no, beep bop boop was like me just saying. I literally said to my friend, I was like, let's put something in my bio just to show like I can put whatever I want in my bio. I just put these noises in my bio, and then there was this crazy meltdown. It was just a big, massive meltdown, and
So she messed up. She tweeted something that was insensitive, but it wasn't outright malicious, right? Carano goes on to explain how Disney handled it.
I had a publicist at the time, and they said, you have to put out you have to put out apology. This is messed up. This is awful. And I said, can you just give me a moment, because I'm kind of feeling emotional right now, and can I just do my own research? And so, you know, they were like, okay, yeah, do your research, but you need to get on the phone tomorrow with our LGBTQ transgender section. And I was like, I'm feeling very emotional. Can you give me a second? And they said, no, you need to do this now. And so I did. I was like, okay, we have to do it now. Then let's do it now. And so I watched their documentary, and I got on the phone with them. And they basically were, just two very gentle people. And they were like, we're sorry, like you stepped in what they call a landmine. And we can tell, you're not cured against us. Yeah, so we went through this really long thing where it was like back and forth, back and forth. They wanted me to say this. I felt like it was ingenuine. I wrote out like this massive thing, but they didn't want that. They didn't want that. I think they thought I was already taking too much attention off of The Mandalorian, which it was not my intention, because I know how hard everybody works on it. Yeah, so I mean, they actually sent over a media trainer, which I felt like, okay, I'm down, like come on over. So I had a great conversation with her, and she left beaming, and I, it was a great conversation, and it was not a problem. And then I don't know. I voted.
Let's recap here. Gina Carano made a statement that apparently violated her contract with Disney. Disney and or Lucasfilm put time and resources into A, educating Carano on how she messed up, and B, working with Carano to issue a public apology.
This is not something I say with pride, but it was my first time voting. I have never voted before. And I know I'm late to the game here, but I never really thought that it counted. And then when I went in I was ready with my ID, and and they just asked my name and they asked my address. And I don't even remember if there was a signature required or not. And we have masks over our face. And I'm ready with my ID to vote because that's what. And they were like, no, you're fine, just go. And I was like, what? You're not gonna check this? Like, this is an important thing that I'm trying to do right now. I'm actually like, I want this to count. And so that was very confusing for me. And so when the election, happened and everything I was just like, wait, why? Like, I feel like there's a lot of outrage about this. And this is confusing to me as a newcomer into this. And I wanted this all to end. And I wanted it to be like, okay, this is your new president, or this is the remaining president, and let's get past it and like join and go.
This tweet was posted on November 5th, 2 days after the election. This is Carano's first time voting, so maybe she just doesn't realize that elections typically aren't finalized on election night. Even if the election is called by news organizations, the votes are never counted 100% on election night. More than 158 million people voted for the president in 2020. It's not unreasonable to have to wait a few days to get an accurate tally. Then she tweeted again, this very ugly meme with multiple fonts, poor grammar, and a stretched image. Here's Carano on the public health guidance surrounding COVID-19.
And just bouncing around. It's just been bouncing back and forth. And it's like masks are bad. Okay, now masks are good.
Masks were never bad. Early on, masks were not recommended for the general public because it was important to prioritize access to masks for those in healthcare. And then once things got more normalized, it was recommended that everyone wear a mask. Science changes. That's how we get new science. And when something as dramatic as a global pandemic happens, the science is going to change fast. And when you're getting fast-changing science from public officials filtered through cable news or Facebook, you might get confused. That's normal. It's okay to be confused.
I mean, we're sitting there like, wait, what is going on? Just confusion. So with that one, though, I live in California, and I've seen the hypocrisy that's been happening. They're going to the French Laundry and they don't have masks on, and so I just like put that out because I thought that was like a good way to convey that we need to start paying attention to the hypocrisy. So for me, it was just like open your eyes.
In December, Carano tweeted another controversial meme. Here it is. You may not recognize it to be anti-Semitic, and neither did Gina Carano. But the image is based off a mural from the UK, and this original is clearly anti-Semitic. And if you know what to look for, the adapted version is also fairly anti-Semitic. Of course, you've got the overall Jewish people control the world narrative. This guy here looks like George Soros, who is a pretty big target of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. And you've also got conspiratorial imagery like the pyramid and the bars of gold. But she didn't know that. She's new to politics.
I thought that once again, I thought that was something that we could all join in on. And I had no idea, obviously no idea that that the original one had been, I didn't know who those men were. But then I saw what they were saying, and then I saw the post, and I saw the picture, and they were two different pictures. So do I take that down? Do I take that down when it's not the same picture, but the origins were? Because the idea in itself is that if we all join together, once again, like my other one, if we all join together and stand up.
What she's describing is anti-capitalism, which you could argue is more offensive to Disney than conservatism.
Then we got to the one that they decided was worthwhile getting rid of you over. We'll get to the social media post that had to do with the Holocaust in just 1 second. First, let's talk about your sleep quality. You may have noticed that sometimes I look super tired.
In February of 2021, Carano made a fifth post, this time a story on Instagram. The post was shared from another account and read, "Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views?" Okay, yeah, right off the bat, she's not necessarily comparing the treatment of Jewish people to that of conservatives. So let's give her the benefit of the doubt on that.
So when I posted that, it wasn't something that I felt like was controversial. It was something that I thought, well, maybe all of us need to ask ourselves how that happened. Because, it's important. The post never said anything about Republicans or conservatives. It doesn't say anything about that in there. It was more about you know, people tearing each other apart. And I thought it would be more of a thing where bring people together. I was like, oh, this is bring people together. But now after hearing so much, and I'm actually have grown through the experience of just knowing that, that's it's not fair to the Jewish community to just throw this out here so much.
But hey, this is her fifth politically controversial social media post, and she's been reprimanded by Disney already. They didn't fire her for being a conservative. They fired her because she repeatedly violated her contract as a public representative of the company. And that may be unfair, but the answer here is workers' rights. If Carano had better labor representation as an employee of Disney, it would have been harder to fire her. Full stop. This isn't a failure of cancel culture. This is a failure of capitalism. And as we know, capitalism only begets capitalism. So the Daily Wire hired Gina Carano to produce and star in a movie. Not like a specific movie. That part hasn't been decided yet.
What kind of movie do you want to make here? Because we're actually going to have to make a movie at some point.
They just hired her because she was fired from her job? Because she was a conservative? I don't know, it sounds like some affirmative action participation trophy stuff. So why specifically the Daily Wire?
You guys were making the most sense to me, that was all. You guys seemed intelligent, well-spoken, you're speaking some truth, you're calling out hard truths.
And she's not wrong. The Daily Wire's brand of conservatism is simple and easy to access, especially if you're
very fresh to this political, spectrum.
Things are changing so fast. We have to care about Black people now? Well, let's let the Daily Wire explain it simply.
My experience with anti-Black racism is really specific. Other people of color experience other forms of racism too, but you won't see any of that if you don't see color.
So yes, we are all supposed to see each other as people of different colors whose experiences are completely non-understandable. I cannot understand your experience in any way. And because I can't understand your experience, this is the Robin DiAngelo stuff, I have to listen and believe.
And trans people? When I was a kid, gender was boys and girls. What's changed?
But it depends on his self-definition. If he's a man who just likes wearing a dress, then for sure he's just a man. But if he's a man who likes wearing a dress and also thinks he's a woman, then he is a transgender person. If none of this makes any scientific sense to you, that's because it has nothing to do with science. It is, in fact, an ideology.
So you can see why this brand of conservatism is so attractive to people who are already overwhelmed and confused by the rapid social change happening all around them. These folks pull you in because you know what? They're just as confused as you. And their answer to this confusion? Nothing. We don't try to expand our understanding of race or gender. We just double down on what we've always believed to be true. Because it's way easier to just insist that you've always been right, instead of having to learn new information about nuanced topics that have material effects on people's lives. But let me repeat my biggest takeaway from this interview. I don't believe that Gina Carano is malicious. I don't believe she meant to insult or otherwise hurt people. And I honestly don't blame her for being taken in by the Daily Wire. It's easy to read, easy to digest, doesn't really require any outside knowledge, and it appeals to broadly held USA good, capitalism good, white men good ideals. But if Gina Carano is not malicious, and if she is just as confused as she claims, I hope she will see through the Daily Wire's grift eventually. In the interview, she says she's grown, and I have faith that she'll continue to do so.
And I'm not a perfect human being. I have so much to learn, and I am gonna make mistakes.